Hello, my name is Will Veneziano. I'm the Generations Healthcare Corporate Dietary Director. I'm here with Alexis Bansberg. She is the Speech Therapy Area Manager with Generations, and we're going to talk to you today about the International Dysphagia Diet Standardization Initiative, also known as IDDSI. We're going to demonstrate how to properly prepare and test liquids and foods. For the first demonstration, I'm going to turn this over to Alexis. She is going to show you how to properly test liquids for the proper texture.
Hi everyone, today in the kitchen we're going to be practicing how to thicken our liquids. So the cool thing about IDDSI is that they try to make it very user-friendly, and they try to make sure that you could use objects that are easily available to test the consistency of liquids. So for example, IDDSI likes to use a syringe to test the thickness of liquids. We'll be testing the consistency of thin apple juice, of mildly thick water, of moderately thick apple juice, and extremely thick apple juice. We're going to be looking at thin liquids first, and as I was mentioning, IDDSI likes to use the 10 milliliter syringe. What I recommend when you're testing the consistency of thin liquids is, first of all, use your syringe and then place the syringe in the liquids, and you're gonna fill it all the way to 10 milliliters. I like to keep an extra glass handy just so I'm not spilling juice all over the table. We're gonna use our other syringe, and I took the cap off. The way we are gonna test is we're gonna put either like your ring finger or your pinky finger, whatever's most comfortable for you. We're gonna hold it, and then I'm going to add the liquids onto the syringe. So like I said, this is where the glass comes really handy. And then now we're gonna use a 10-second timer. So I set my timer to 10 seconds. And my timer just went off, and you're gonna see that there's literally only like 1 milliliter left in this syringe, which tells me that it is thin liquids. Also, when I remove my finger, you're gonna see that water consistently drips. So we have thin apple juice. Now we're gonna move on to mildly thick lemon water. So again, I'm going to use my syringe. I'm gonna use my glass again. So we're gonna squeeze 10 milliliters of the mildly thick water. Again, we're gonna use your ring finger or your pinky finger, and then we'll put on the mildly thick. We're gonna use a 10-second timer again. So my 10-second timer is going, and you're going to see that it's slowly dripping, and my 10-second timer is up. So you can tell that we're still in the 7 milliliter range, which is fine, because for mildly thick liquids, you want to be in the 4 to 8 milliliter range. If I take my pinky finger off, you're gonna see that it drips a lot slower than the apple juice, and it takes a long time for the juice to leave the syringe. So now we're moving on to our moderately thick apple juice. The way to test this one again is with our syringe, but also you can check with your fork. When you're using moderately thick liquids and you place your fork in the liquids, you're going to see that it drips. I'm gonna grab my syringe, and again, I'm gonna fill it all the way to 10 milliliters. And then I'm gonna use my glass. I'm gonna put the syringe. Okay. And then I'm gonna put my 10-second timer. I'm just going to let it roll, and you can see that it's going slow and it's dripping. And then my 10-second timer is off, and it's still in like that 10 milliliter range, which is what you want to see. Now we're gonna move on to the extremely thick liquids. You can't test this one with a syringe. You can't drink it out of a cup. You can't definitely use a straw. So what you have to do is use a spoon. The way to test to see that it is the right consistency, when you grab your spoon and you drop it, you see that there's still residue left on the back of your spoon. That mountain, that's what you're looking for in extremely thick liquids. So now that we've tested our liquids, we're going to move on to solids. So extremely thick liquids is a nice segue into solids, because out of all the levels of IDDSI, extremely thick liquids and pureed solids are considered the same level, a level 4. And that is because you will see them mountain on the pureed solids as well. And these are all the liquids. So again, with IDDSI, it's very user-friendly, so if you're kind of lost between the liquids or the solids, you can always refer to the guide. So here you will find our triangle for liquids. So on the very bottom, you're going to find level 0, which is thin liquids. And then you're going to find level 1, which is slightly thick liquids. Here at Generations Healthcare, we don't use level 1 because level 1 is mainly for pediatric patients. So we're going to ignore level 1 and then we're going to move on to level 2, which is mildly thick liquids. So here in this level 3, you're going to find moderately thick liquids. And if you look on this side, you're going to see our upside down triangle, which talks about our solids. Here on level 3, you're going to see that it matches level 3 moderately thick liquids. Liquidized foods on this side of the triangle, like your ensures, your soups. And then on top of this triangle, you're going to find your extremely thick liquids, which again is a nice segue into our upside down triangle for solids, because you're going to find level 4, pureed solids. Then we're going to move on to dense moist solids, level 5. And on top of that, you'll find your level 6, which is soft and bite size. And then level 7, you're going to see your easy to chew solids. And on the very, very top, you're going to find your regular solids.
So now we're going to talk to you about the foods, the solid foods that need to be modified into a certain texture. We have our puree food, we have our minced and moist, we have our soft and bite-sized, and we have our easy to chew. The first demonstration I'm going to do is for the puree food.
So as I was mentioning with the thin liquids, IDDSI made everything very user-friendly. When you're testing to see if the food's the right consistency, we're going to use our spoon. We're going to use the spoon tilt test. So you're going to grab your spoon and do this tilt. What the spoon tilt test is looking for is to see how sticky the food is and how it's able to stay on the spoon. So Will, there you go.
So we have roast beef, we have mashed sweet potatoes, and we have green beans. So starting with the green beans, I'm going to pick up a little bit of the green beans with my spoon. And you can see how it holds together. It stays firm on the spoon, but it's not too thick that it will drop off the spoon. Same thing with the sweet potatoes. We want to make sure that we get a good amount here. And you can see how it holds up well, and then it will eventually fall off.
You typically see patients eating a puree diet when they have problem with masticating. With IDDSI, you're also able to utilize a finger test or chopsticks. However, with this diet, you can't test to see if it's the correct consistency with chopsticks. Now, I'm not very good with chopsticks, so I actually brought the chopstick expert. So Rupert, would you mind seeing if you can grab pureed solids with your chopsticks?
You kind of can.
You can grab the meat, that you'll definitely grab. So even though Rupert was able to grab just a little bit of the food, you can't really test with chopsticks to see if it's sticky enough or if it tilts enough.
So now we're going to move on to minced and moist.
So with this diet, you're going to see patients that have just a little bit of trouble chewing because the food's already chopped to 4 milliliters. So again, IDDSI is very user-friendly, and the way to test to see if it's the correct diet, we're going to focus on our fork. So we really want the food to be able to fit in between the prongs of the fork. The way to test to make sure that the consistency is right, you're going to focus on 4 millimeter pieces. The food should be in between the prongs of the fork. So when I put my fork and I smash the food, it should be in between the fork.
See the broccoli is holding onto the fork. It's 4 millimeters or less. With the protein or the meats, there should always be gravy served alongside of it, either on top of it or on the side for the resident to pour on. This is minced and moist. You can see that it's quite moist. The gravy, the roast beef is moist, as is the broccoli.
And with minced moist solids, you can use your chopsticks and it will pick up the food. Rupert, would you mind demonstrating?
Oh, wow.
I always use it when I go to Chinese restaurants, but I'm never any good at it. That's not right, what I just did, right?
Move your thumb in.
We'll move this way a little bit.
Yeah, I've never really learned. I was not trained properly. So now we're going to move on to the next texture, which is soft and bite-sized.
So for this diet, you're going to see it with patients that can actually chew. you're also going to be able to use a fork, a spoon, or chopsticks. The difference between minced and moist and soft and bite size is the pieces are bigger. The pieces are no larger than 15 millimeters long,
which is the width of the fork. So our best example here is our how we have the broccoli cut up. You can see that these are nice and bite-sized pieces, okay, in all cases. Same thing with the roast beef. It's been chopped up into bite-sized pieces. Again, please make sure it's always served with gravy. And in this case with the mashed sweet potatoes, since they are already nice and soft, you're not going to be able to cut them into bite-sized pieces, but they all hold up well.
Rupert!
Rupert!
And then what I also want to say about soft and bite size is that with Rupert's chopsticks, if he squeezes the mashed potatoes or even the broccoli, you will be able to squeeze the food. So Rupert, can you show? You just squeeze the food so you can see that it's still tender. And another thing to mention about the soft and bite size is that you can use the finger method test as well if you needed to test the consistency of the food. So if you grab your finger, you should be able to smash the food with your finger. And notice how it broke easily. So if I grab the sweet potato, if I smash it, the food breaks.
So our next plate is for the easy to chew food.
The big difference with easy to chew is that it's really regular food. The only exception is that it is really soft. So the peas, for example, have butter. The chicken is really soft and tender that you can just grab your fork and you can cut it. You normally see people in this diet that can have no problem chewing. It gives it a little bit of help, that extra moisture.
So the foods are all nice and soft. As you can see as I push down on the potatoes. With the chicken, we do have a side of gravy here available if the resident prefers. But you can see how the chicken is nice and tender, and you can chop it up very simply with a fork into a small piece. You can also use the finger test and make sure that the items are nice and soft and easy to chew. The peas are nice and soft. Obviously the sweet potatoes, you can see how it just mashes in my finger. The chicken as well, with or without the gravy, pulls right apart as I squeeze it.
So again, with easy to chew, if you grab your chopsticks, Rupert is able to squish the pea and it will break. So Will, I think now it's time to talk about the controversial items.
Yes.
So we're going to focus on bread and grains. If you're on a puree diet, your bread will be pureed 100%.
Yes, and we're also pureeing the bread based on the IDDSI rules for minced and moist and soft and bite-sized.
However, with level 7, easy to chew or regular solids, you can have all types of bread. So think of like a French baguette, sourdough, even day-old bread. So for soft and bite size, for that diet, the type of bread we would only use is really moist bread. Well, is there any type of breads that we use for that diet?
Yeah, so think about something like French toast.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about rice, quinoa, or other grains that are similar to that. For a level 5 minced moist solids, the only way you can really eat rice or quinoa is if it's in a sauce that's considered either mildly thick, moderately thick, and it really has to stick to the rice or the quinoa.
What about soft and bite-sized?
Well, for soft and bite size, the rice doesn't have to be sticky or very gelatinous.
Also for desserts, so when it comes to desserts for puree, everything in the dessert profile needs to be pureed or pudding. But for soft and bite-sized and minced and moist, it needs to be more of a slurry type, following the same fork and spoon testing that we use for the regular foods.
But if you're on easy to chew or regular solids, you really have free reign of all the desserts you want to eat. If you want to eat cheesecake with a crust, you're more than welcome to.
Just as long as we're not serving anything that has nuts in it.
Yes.
Very important. So we do realize that occasionally in the kitchen we do make some errors when we send out improper food on the tray tickets.
So it's always important to read the ticket and make sure that the diet matches what the resident is eating. We do have to be careful. Some residents are on their prescribed diet for, swallowing. You don't want to cough with the wrong diet, or you don't want to feel like you can't eat it or chew it.
So this is Will and Alexis again. We just want to wrap things up by saying thank you for participating in this demonstration. Feel free to reach out to myself or Alexis via email, and we can answer any further questions. We appreciate your time, and please, we want to make sure that our speech therapists, our dietitians, our dietary supervisors, and kitchen staff and nursing is all on the same page with this.
Thanks.
Love you, Scott.
Generations, you guys are the best.